Here is the instructional video for rolling the back on the floor. Okay, now that we've finished with our snow angel technique and all of this tissue is starting to open up, now we can actually work the back side of that shoulder girdle with our rolling the back technique. Remembering that there's always three-dimensional aspects to this body. The front of the shoulder is just the front of the back. The back is just the back of the front. And when it comes to the shoulder girdle being able to have effortless free range of motion, reaching up into a cupboard or doing anything above us, a lot of that has to do with the ability for the latissimus on the back side of the body to be able to function. And what happens is an immediately rotated shoulder girdle where the shoulders are rounding forward, we're stuck down here, that latissimus gets pulled and stretched out, and then it kind of loses its function to be able to come back into the back of the body. And then the same thing for that trapezius across the back. When that trapezius gets elongated throughout the lower fibers, the third and the fourth head, and even up into the second head of that trapezius, then it gets stretched long and it kind of likes to stay in that long position. So we're going to work on this next technique. We're going to help encourage and coax that tissue into a more functional place, and we're going to do that with this technique. So for some people, again, this technique is going to be a little tricky for them on the floor, or if it's hard for them to move around on the floor because the shoulders are having a hard time or they're having any kind of hip or back discomfort, you would immediately have them do the wall version of this technique, which is just as equally as effective. Again, we don't want their nervous system stressed, thinking that if they can't do it on the floor, then there's nothing that they can do at all, which is the beauty behind the relief through rolling system. So when we're getting ready to get into the start position for this technique, we actually have to go a little bit faster pace so we don't fall off the roller or we're not working harder than what we should have to do. So we're going to work Jenna's left side of her back and the shoulders first. So what Jenna's going to do is she's going to put her left hand over here, making sure that she doesn't come too high with that hand so it doesn't pinch in that shoulder girdle too much. Because if it's already stressed and you try to put that hand too high, it can really cause a lot of discomfort through that shoulder girdle. So the hand just a little bit about where the diaphragm is or the middle of your rib cage is a good place for the hand. The key to this technique is what she's going to do with her legs and her feet. The legs and the feet and the pelvis, everything has to turn all the way over so she can get on her side. And so here's how she's going to do this. And again, you can practice this on the wall before you go to the floor if you need to. So her right hand is going to come on her belly. She's going to use her hand and her feet, and she's going to turn herself on the roller, and she's going to get all the way on her side, right, like this. So she actually rolled herself on the roller. What some people will do, Jenna, if you go ahead and go back to where you were, some people actually try to scooch over on the roller, so they keep the roller still and then they just kind of shift their body and they try to get turned by just scooching, and that's not how that works, and that's going to make it more complicated. So what you have to do is that you have to allow your body to turn over, and the key to that is letting your legs and your pelvis and your feet also go over at the same time. So if you watch this process as Jenna turns, everything turns over. Her feet turn over, her legs turn over, her pelvis is over, and she's laying on the side of her body on the roller now. So now that she's in the correct start position, she's going to use her front hand as a speed control, making sure that she doesn't go too fast, because now that we're going to do the actual technique, we want the movement of stick or slow to allow that nervous system to soften and change the tissue where we're rolling through the tissue through the roller. So what she's going to do is that she's going to slowly crawl her hand back to that other side, and then she's going to just slowly come back to the very middle. And what this is going to work on is this is going to steamroll that tissue, and it's going to work through that tissue, encouraging that nervous system to soften and let go of the fascial tissue and the muscle tissue through there. So we're going to do that again. She's going to get zipped over so she can go quick to get into position. Now that she's in position, she's going to stick her slow, and sometimes what she may need to do is she may need to leave the palm of the hand down on the floor to act as a brake so she just doesn't slide too fast. So everybody's a little different with the shape of their rib cage and pelvis on how this is going to work for them, so you just have to play with that. Another key to this is that as she works her way back, so go ahead and get back into the start position. As soon as she can relax her head down onto the roller, we want that head to soften. So the first little bit, the head has to be off the roller because it can't touch. As soon as she goes through this motion, right about there, she's going to let her head soften down onto the roller, which is going to soften that shoulder girdle musculature on that posterior side and on the front side. And then she can continue with her sticker slow motion to steamroll back to the middle. So if you were to see what that looks like on the other side, Jenna's just going to switch her hands. So her left hand is now on her belly, the right hand is over here, and she's going to go quickly to get into position. So you can see through here, she's all the way on her side. She's all the way on her hip. She's all the way on the side of her rib cage and the side of her shoulder. So this tissue is working the latissimus, it's working the trapezius, it's working the triceps and part of the deltoid through here. So this is a phenomenal shoulder girdle technique, even though we call it rolling the back. So now sticker slow, she's just going to let herself slowly roll back to the middle. The head is going to relax back to the floor, and then she comes back to the very middle. Now sometimes, depending on the shape of your waistline, especially for women more than men, because there's that nice hourglass shape, what happens is that you might get a little crooked on the roller after a time or two. So after you come back to the very middle, I want to make sure that you're just straight on the roller. So you might have to adjust your hips a little bit or adjust your shoulders. And sometimes after 2 or 3 or 4 repetitions, you kind of, the body tends to slide up on the roller. So you want to make sure that your head is all the way on the roller and making sure that your pelvis is all the way on the roller as well. So again, we'll watch one more time. Jenna's going to roll this way. So she's going to quickly get into position. Boom, there she is. Nice and easy. She's going to sticker slow, roll back to the middle. Nice and easy, nice and relaxed. And again, this is going to be a life-changing, game-changing element for you if you're having any kind of shoulder issues whatsoever.